This is the time my mom faked her death so she didn't have to take care of me and my siblings. Yes, this girl really faked her death. So at the time, I was 5 and my little brother was 3. It started off with my mom saying that she didn't feel well and she couldn't pick me up from school, so the bus would have to take me home. Well, a few months after, she started getting picked up from our house by this black car. She said that car was picking her up because of her so-called doctor's appointments. And she wasn't able to drive herself because she was too sick. Well, one day when this car came to pick her up, she never came home. Me and my little brother were sitting around for a couple days waiting for her to come home, but she never came home, and we were young, so we didn't do anything. Eventually, my aunt came over to our house and told my little brother and I that our mom had passed away and that she was cremated and they kept the ashes. So our aunt started taking care of
her. Her total comes up to probably between $700 to $900. It was expensive. My manager is at the register next to me talking to me on the walkie. Ashley, make sure you get that ID. Don't matter what she's using, make sure you get that ID. So I ask her for the ID because she's paying credit. Why do you need to ask for my ID? Just take it, run it. I'm like, no ma'am, I'm sorry, I need your ID for the purchase. She starts to raise her voice at me.
This is part 2 of the time my mom faked her death so she didn't have to take care of me and my siblings. Like I said, my aunt told me that my mom had died and they cremated her and they let her keep the ashes and that she was going to start taking care of us. Me not knowing how long the cremating process actually took at the time since I was so young, I believed her. Until one day I saw my aunt getting picked up by the same black car that my mom used to get picked up by before she died. That's when I decided to check these supposed ashes and it was actually flour. So one day when my aunt got picked up by this black car, I decided to follow her. I didn't have a car, I was 5 years old, so I had to follow them by walking and hiding behind bushes. I was able to follow them up the street, and once they turned the corner, and there I saw my story. This is why you should never trust your friend if they tell you that their pet don't bite. Charla Nash would go over to her friend's house, Sandra, every now and then to watch over her 200-pound chimpanzee. Charla knew straight off the bat that she did not like that chimpanzee because it always scared her. There was even a time where the chimpanzee jumped on Charla's back and ripped out a chunk of her hair. Charla started crying, but her friend Sandra thought it was funny. Sandra would not be laughing at anything that chimpanzee did much longer after this day. One day, Charla gets a call from Sandra saying her chimpanzee wouldn't go back in the cage and she needed some help. Charla drove over there to help her friend, and immediately after, Sandra would have to call the police. By the time the police arrived, Charla was laying on the ground with half of her face eaten off, no jaw, her nose hanging from her face by a piece of her skin, and with both of her hands ripped off. This is what Charla looked like before her attack. Her entire face was mutilated after the attack, but since the photos are super graphic, they'll be posted on my Instagram story. This is going to be part 2 of why you should never trust your friend if they tell you that their pet don't bite. Sandra never imagined that after she called her friend over to help her put her 200-pound chimpanzee back in his cage, since he wouldn't go in, she would have to make a phone call to the police and report how her chimpanzee ate her friend alive. This is the audio clip.
Please!
What's the problem with your friend? I need to know.
Let the police up! With a gun! With a gun! Hurry
Who
up!
has a gun?
Please, hurry up! He's killing my girlfriend!
What is the problem?
He's killing my friend!
Who's killing your friend?
My chimpanzee!
Oh, your chimpanzee is killing your friend.
Yes. He ripped her apart! Hurry up! And she's dead. She's dead.
Why are you saying that she's dead?
She's dead. He ripped her apart.
Charla actually ended up surviving. She was rushed to the hospital.
Hello guys, I decided to add too much shaving cream into this slime. Credits to @honeybloomslime16. Go follow her and get her to 200K.
She make it clap.
She deserves that.
She make it clap, clap, clap. 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 She make it clap, clap, clap.
The slime got very hard to stretch.
She make it clap, clap, clap. She make it clap. Riding around town with a strap on my lap.
Anyways, comment down some video ideas.
Grab and then hit from the back.
Because I am out of ideas.
Cause I like that. After I hit, then I be right back. I walk in the club and whip out the rack.
Let's go. Left foot, right foot, levitating. Pop stars, Dua Lipa with the baby. I had to lace my shoes for all the blessings I was chasing. If I ever slip, I fall into a better situation. So catch up, go put some cheese on it, get out and get your bread up. They always leave when you fall, but you run together. Let's go. Left foot, right foot, levitating. Pop stars, Dua Lipa with the baby. I had to lace my shoes for all the blessings I was chasing. If I ever slip, I fall into a better situation. So catch up, go put some cheese on it, get out and get your bread up. They always leave when you fall, but you run together. Weight of the world on my shoulders, I kept my head up. Now baby, stand up, cause girl, you.
This man's wife left him, but not for the reasons he thought. Once there was a couple who just got married in Paris. They were very happy together, but the wife had one secret she didn't tell her husband yet. She had a birthmark on her face. She'd been wearing makeup to cover it, but she thought once she showed her husband, she would know whether he truly loved her. So after they got married, she took off her makeup and showed him. He was surprised, but he wasn't going to let that change anything. However, the next morning, his wife was gone. Her husband thought that she must have felt upset due to how surprised he looked when he saw her birthmark. Or maybe she had second thoughts. After months of getting no reply, he finally gave up on trying to look for her. He was heartbroken, but after a few years, he got a new job in a different city. He wanted a fresh start in life, but things didn't go as planned. He came across a strange-looking circus called the House of Oddities. This made him very curious, so he went in. But what he saw inside would shock him. Among the other circus acts, he saw a twisted woman rocking back and forth, looking terrified. He screamed as he recognized the birthmark on her face.
"You're not even pretty enough to be a model," Mom said. But I knew this just wasn't true, as I've heard many people tell me I was the prettiest girl they'd ever seen. Mom was so mean. From that day onwards, she made me dress in baggy clothes, 3 sizes bigger than me, and didn't let me get a decent haircut. She always insisted on cutting my hair extremely short, so my bangs had never actually grown past my shoulders, and I had uneven bangs. She never even let me buy makeup, not even lip gloss. I was the only girl who went to school without any makeup. She didn't even let me have my own phone or have any presence on social media. With the ugly clothes Mom wore, she was hardly noticeable. Sometimes I would catch her looking out the window with tears in her eyes, but when I asked her about it, she never said anything. But even though I dressed like a total homeless person, boys huddled around my locker to get my number just to talk to me. Some of the girls envied me while others wanted to be my friend, but it was for all the wrong reasons. They thought
if you're ever driving late at night, don't do what they did. 2 boys picked up a girl on the side of the road while they were on their way to a school dance. In the car, she kept saying that she was cold, so one of the boys gave her his jacket. But when the night ended and they were about to drop her off, the girl accidentally left with the jacket. So the boys said that they would just come back the next day to get it. But when they came back and knocked on her door, they discovered something that would make them question what is real and what isn't. An old woman opened the door and asked them who they were looking for. After talking to her for a while, it was revealed that the girl they found on the side of the road was her daughter. But the thing is, she had been dead for 12 years. She was killed in a car accident at the same street corner they first saw her. The old woman pointed to a cemetery down the road and said, "That's where we buried her." The boys didn't believe her at first. They'd spent the whole night with this girl, so they knew that she had to be real. But they went to the cemetery and saw the boy's jacket draped over a gravestone. And on the gravestone was the girl's name and the date of her death, exactly 12 years ago to the day.
Story time. I babysat a lot of kids in my neighborhood, and there was this one night that I was babysitting a 2-year-old. It was around 10 o'clock at night, so the kid was sleeping, and I was just sitting in the living room. In the living room, there was a big TV, a couch, and then behind me, it was a wall with a giant window. So it was really late at night, I had nothing to do, so I was Snapchatting my friends. If you Snapchat anybody, I'm sure you know that sometimes you Snapchat really fast. You don't even know or look at what you're sending. I was mass snapping all my friends, and then one of them replied 10 minutes later. And he said, "Who's that guy behind you?" And I turned around and no one was there, so I'm like, he's playing a joke on me. But then I get another Snapchat from this friend I had, and she lives all the way across the country. They don't know each other. And she said, "I think there's someone outside." So I was really freaked out because I was alone. There was a giant window behind me. Apparently there was someone outside. I wasn't gonna call the child's parents because I didn't want to freak them out, but I was scared. So then I went around the house, locked all of the doors. Sorry, it's a really long story, like for part 2.
My best friend was toxic. Story time. Growing up, I had this best friend who we're gonna name Keisha. And since my mom died when I was a baby, Keisha's mom kind of stepped up and became a motherly figure to me. And even though I appreciated it, I don't think Keisha did. because she would always make these rude comments like, "She's not your real mom," or "She doesn't love you as much as she loves me because I'm her actual daughter." And it really bothered me, but I chose to ignore it because I loved Keisha's mom like my own mom. So this one time on Mother's Day, I was at Keisha's house hanging out with her and her mom. And Keisha had this really bad attitude just because I was there. Her attitude was so bad that I didn't even want to be there. So eventually I asked if I could go home, but Keisha's mom said I didn't have to and not to let Keisha's attitude ruin our day. And when her mom said that, it really set her off. And she said something that I would never forgive her for. Keisha turns to me and opens up her disgusting mouth to say, "Your mother is dead. You should be spending Mother's Day at a cemetery."
Story time. So there was this one girl in 7th grade. Let's call her Lexi. Lexi was a pick-me girl. She was always like, boys are less drama, you know? And Lexi used to sit next to me in class. And I was throwing a Halloween party later this week. I decided to write a list of what we're gonna be doing at the party in class while Lexi's sitting next to me. She looks over at my notebook and sees it. And she was like, "I'm invited, right?" I looked at her and I just didn't say anything because I didn't want to tell her she's not. She got really excited and was like, "I'm gonna be wearing a devil costume. Actually, no, I want to be the angel." And at the end of class, she told me to send her the location and information on her Instagram. And I remember that Lexi had a lot of spam accounts and accounts she doesn't use. So I decided to send her the information on one of the accounts she doesn't use. 2 days later, Lexi sends me
I'm gonna cry. Okay. So basically, me and my sister share a bathroom. We have shared a bathroom for quite a while now. And I have a pink toothbrush that I've been using for maybe 3 months now, maybe longer. It's a good toothbrush. So I go upstairs last night to brush my teeth, as I should. And I grab my toothbrush and I realize the bristles are wet. So I look at my sister and I'm like, "Did you use my toothbrush?" And her eyes got really wide and she was like, "Yeah, why?" And I'm like, "How long have you been using this toothbrush?" And she said, "For a few months now." So me and my sister have been using the same toothbrush for over 3 months.
This is why you should never talk to strangers in an elevator. One day, a surgeon was working the night shift at a hospital. He just finished this operation on a patient and was going to the basement. He entered the elevator and there was one other woman already inside. They were casually chatting when the elevator door opened and another woman was about to enter. But the surgeon looked horrified. He quickly slammed the close button and punched the highest floor of the building. Surprised, the woman asked why he was being so rude and wouldn't let the other woman in the elevator with them. The surgeon explained that in this hospital, all patients wear white wristbands with their names printed on them, but the red wristbands are placed on all of the corpses. The surgeon then looks to the woman in the elevator with him and says, "That was the same woman I just operated on. She died on the operating table. Didn't you see the red wristband she was wearing?" The woman in the elevator with him just smiled, raised her arm, and said, "You mean like this one?"